Alright, so far we've looked at adding basic shapes, and now I'm going to take one shape or object and start modifying its topology, i.e. basically what it looks like. So the way to do this is to firstly select the cube, and I'm going to just move into edit mode. You can also press tab to switch in between to the various modes, including edit. And now I'm going to select the top surface of this cube, and I'm going to basically pop it up, or E to extrude it to make it a little taller. I can also extrude with the face menu, as you can see there. And that will give me the top of the car. Now I'm going to just scale it in a bit so the car's got a bit of a shape and that sort of stuff. Now I need to add extensions on the front and back to make it look like a vehicle. But what I'm going to do is switch from selecting individual vertexes. I'm going to skip over edges, which are the lines between two vertexes, and actually go for faces, which is the space between a bunch of edges. And extrude this out forward, and then do the same to extrude it out the back. I'm kind of tempted to actually raise the car up a little bit as well, so just grab Z direction. And this allows me to get a basic box-like shape. What I do want to do is just put a little bulge around the edges here, so it sort of gets a bit more complex, a bit more interesting in terms of topology. So I'm going to do Control R, which is a ring cut, and that gives me a line of cutting through the object, and you can see me moving over different options here. What I want to do is actually go along the car body and then raise it up to add that cut there. Hasn't done anything to the shape of the vehicle yet, or the form, but if I scale it in the X direction, it allows me to just bulge it out a little bit to create that little impression of a vehicle, and that's looking pretty good so far. Now that automatically flicks me over to edge select mode, which is kind of useful. I'm just going to go with the front edge, and I'm going to add a pair of headlights. That's pretty easy. I'm going to do add lazy headlights, which is basically just adding a UV sphere. And I've completely lost. There's the sphere. So I'm going to grab it and move it to the front. Now, firstly, this sphere is A, too big, and B, not flat. So I'm going to judge it based on the car, scale it down so it's sort of at headlight size. That should be about right. Then I'm going to scale in the X direction, but I'll just cancel that and scale X, come out a little bit so I can get some control over how flat it is. And that's looking pretty good. Scale X, Z, sorry, not X. And that's great. Now I need to actually rotate this round so I can place it on the front of the vehicle. R is for rotate, but you can see it's sort of rotating in weird direction. I tap R again, it actually gives me a trackball rotation, which again, weird actions. But the easiest R is actually to rotate R on the X direction, so I've got control in that X plane. And here's one really funky trick, is I can just type in 90 for 90 degrees. So 360 degrees in a circle. This one rotates at 90 degrees in a particular angle. So here I've got the headlight. I look at the front of the vehicle. Now I'm going to use the keyboard numpads to give me a set view. 1, 3, 7. 7's top, 3 is side, 1 is front. So I can then grab this collection of objects and drop a headlight in place, and then duplicate and slide it across, probably just keeping on the X. Eyeball it so it looks about right, and then of course they're sitting over here. So I'm going to select the whole lot and grab, and it distorts and goes weird because it is not see-through. So I'm going to pull up the wireframe version, which is this icon up here, or you can tap the Z key. Z gives you your rendering options. Wireframe in this case is the best one for what we need to do. So from the side, I'm going to grab in the Y direction, slide it back so that it looks like it's touching. That looks pretty good. Go back to the rendered view, that looks fine. Go back to other views, so we'll just tap Z again. We've got solid and final rendering. So this gives us a bit of an idea of what it'll look like when it's finished. And you can see there's two little button headlights kind of thing going on there. So now it's probably worth moving into colouring this sort of stuff, and I'll add the wheels in a few minutes. But ideally we want to make it look like a vehicle. So for the headlights, I'm going to add a material. So down here we've got a whole list of icons, and I want to change this material so that we get a really nice bright white. That should about cover it. Now I need to apply that white to the vehicle, and I also want to apply a different color to the rest of the vehicle. So I'm going to add a different material here with a little plus symbol. So the first material I'm going to call lights, and the second material I'm going to call, I'll give it a new and then change it to matte car body. So the matte at the front just lets me know that it's a material, and I should have done the same thing with the lights. So matte dot headlights. Alright, so I've got this. I want to select the entire car body, and even in wireframe mode I'm going to have a little problem selecting around the headlights. There's another shortcut for mesh. We can select linked vertices, if I can find it here, or I can just go Control L. So I want that to be the car body. I want the car body to be something interesting, so let's go a blue and assign it to that sort of thing. Again, checking the shading. Let's have a look at the final rendered version, and that's looking pretty good. Though headlights, well, let's go linked again after selecting individual ones, and I'm going to assign that. Now, with all of these materials, we can actually add some extra bits and pieces if it's actually listed in here, and I hope that it has luminosity or emission, but this is the basic shader, so it's probably not going to give us that yet. So I will add it on. We've got metallic reflection, so if you want a shiny car body, you can pump up the metallics to make it not glow but reflect light quite nicely. And there's normally an emission thing, but that's not listed here, but it'll be listed somewhere else. But that will come in later when we get to more complicated materials. So now that I've done that, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to snap my cursor to my selection. So cursor to selected. What that does is allows me to, when I create a new object, is to add it to that point. I'm going to go out of edit mode, back into object mode, and I'm going to add what will become the wheel, a UV sphere. Now obviously that doesn't look right, but again, like with the headlights, we can do the same changes. So if I go scale in the Z direction, just squish it down a bit, that's looking pretty good. And then rotate Y 90 degrees. It's almost even sitting in the right spot. Bit big, but hey, we can scale that so it fits roughly about that. So just grab it, slide it back a bit, and then grab it and slide it out a bit. And that's pretty much what I want for the wheel. Now, I need to actually color this and then duplicate it. Now, duplication I talked about in the last video, but I'll color this first because I actually want to make a particular mistake. So again, two materials here. Each time I'm adding a material, I'm giving it an appropriate name. So matte tire rubber for my first material, and then matte hubcap for the actual hubcap. So now I talked about hubcaps a little before about what we can do. So anyhow, tire rubber, I'll get onto this and get this done. Basically making it black or near black. I need to then probably change it so that the subsurface I don't want a subsurface. These features we'll get onto later, but it doesn't have a subsurface. It doesn't have any of the other fancy features that it has here, because this is a fairly complex shader and will cover a lot of different cases. But I'm just giving it a quick glance over to make sure that I don't need any of that stuff. The other one that I needed is the hubcap. So the hubcap, I want that sort of metallic silvery kind of effect. So the base color, just going to push slightly into the blues. The metallic I'm going to pump up so that it's not mirror finish, but pretty decent. And then I'm going to go back to here and actually start editing this thing. So I've got the two materials, and does it give me a preview? That looks pretty bland actually. But the specular, we'll push that up a little bit because we want some reflection in there and that sort of stuff. But hopefully this will do and give me enough of what I need to do it. Anyhow, back to the wheel. I'm going to switch into edit mode, and now I just want to select part of that wheel, the inner bit. Well, actually, first up, I'm going to assign the wheel tire rubber to the whole lot. Assign, done. Now I want to actually get to this middle bit, and so I'm going to go A to unselect everything, select none. Oh, Alt A. Okay. Then I'm going to use C for circle select, which is one of the selection tools. And I'm just going to select that inner piece. Now, I'm in selection mode at the moment. The keys are left click to select something, like that. Right click to deselect something. And the mouse wheel controls how big the circle is. And then when you're finished, just hit a right click to go done. Now I'm going to select the tire hubcap stuff and assign that there. So here we've got a bit of a look going, and we'll see how it is. Perfect, and I render it. I've only got one wheel at the moment, but I'll just do the other wheels in a moment. So you can see here, that's how it exists. Perfect. Now, getting out of this, I'm going to go to above, and I'm going to cheat just easily. I'm going to do Alt-D to duplicate that wheel, if it'll let me, in the Y direction. And then I'm going to grab these two wheels, and then Shift-D to duplicate in and slide them in the Z direction. But one thing you may realize is that the hubcaps are on the inside now. So for those two wheels, I just simply need to R for rotate, Y direction 180 degrees so that they pop out to the outside. And we have a look at this. There they are now. And our car's pretty much done. Hit a render, save it as always. So I got image, save as is what we've done. Car, bang, car PNG, save image. Finishes at render, close the render screen, and save your project work. Probably save the project work first, but cartoon, car. And that covers the third tutorial. And that's pretty much it. You can, of course, add in windows and that sort of stuff if you want to make the topology of this thing a little more complicated. So to give you an example of that, just dropping into edit mode, if it'll let me edit. So here I want to select, say, this face here. So I'll select that face. And there's two ways to do it. I can do a bunch of ring cuts, which gets a bit complicated, or I can go for I for insert a panel. And you can see here that I'm just inserting basically windscreens, and then of course I can color them as needed. And you can model, stylize, finish up your car as you like. And then these windows I can actually just fix up with my headlights material, assign, and that looks about right.